Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about car dealers and where they are currently at given everything that is happening in the market. I figured it would be a good time to do an update video because we are halfway through the year. Before we get in this video though, as always, if you're going to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. Let's get into it. So we are officially about halfway through the year, and so what this means is that we have quite a bit of info on what is happening in the car world with dealerships, how they are currently faring, and it is pretty interesting. So I want to quickly start off by talking about used car lots, so dealers that only sell used cars, and then we're going to have most of the video focusing on new car franchises. When it comes to used car lots, it's honestly all over the place. There are some used car lots that are absolutely killing it right now, and a big reason why they're able to do that is because there is a gap between retail and wholesale right now that is pretty strong. Wholesale values continue to decline at the same time that retail values are not declining. So basically dealers are able to buy cars for cheaper and sell them for more money just because of the gap that is existing in the market right now. So some used car lots are doing really well. Other used car lots, on the other hand, are basically on their last leg, and they're in a situation where if things get worse, like if these wholesale values continue to slide and they continue to be more negative in their inventory, even though they can technically retail out of them for more money, right? They still have to find a customer to pay that money. You know, they could be going out of business soon. And so there's definitely a lot of volatility to be seen now and into the future with these used car lots. And now this kind of pushes us over into new car franchises, which I always find far more interesting because it's just a much more expansive business overall. It's not just buying and selling used cars. It's new cars, used cars, and obviously servicing. So on the new car side of things, although profit on a per car basis has declined this year, there are bigger dealer discounts happening. Volume has increased. So dealership profitability, although not as strong for a lot of dealers compared to what we saw over the course of the pandemic, is still very strong by historic standards. And on top of that, right, with the extra volume, this means that dealers have more swings, so to speak, to sell customers warranties or accessories, other stuff associated with the vehicle purchase. So new car sales, they're great. But something to mention is there's definitely a gap between different manufacturers, right? You look at the domestic manufacturers and they've got more inventory, and those dealers are not making as much money as some of the foreign brands like Toyota, for example, right? Toyota dealers are in a great situation. They sell out of all of their inventory. They sell all of their inventory for MSRP, and in some cases still above MSRP. And so not only do they not have the flooring costs that these domestic dealers have, but they're selling their product for more money because they're selling it at MSRP. They're not discounting it off of MSRP. And so there is definitely a gap when it comes to the new car sales world. And so, if you happen to own a Toyota franchise or a Kia franchise, for example, you're making bank. But if you happen to own a Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram franchise, you're still making money, but times are definitely not as good as what they were, 6 to 12 months ago. Now, moving on from the new car side of things to used cars, pretty much the same thing applies as what I just said with used car dealers at the beginning of the video, where because of that gap, there's more profits to be made on used cars, but used car sales are definitely declining. There's just less volume. It's harder to find people to buy these used cars, but when they do buy them, they pay all the money for them. And then moving from that to the service departments, volume is definitely starting to decline. There are fewer people going in and getting their cars fixed, but we're still at an all-time high when it comes to people getting their cars fixed and also prices. I mean, you look at labor rates with dealers and it's crazy. Most non-luxury dealers are closing in on $200 an hour for their labor rate, and then luxury car dealers are mid-200s to $300 per hour with their labor rate. And this is definitely like an increase that exceeds, overall inflation. And so, yeah, these dealers are definitely not struggling whatsoever when it comes to these service departments. They're quite profitable. And so if you look at the new car dealership world, they went from a market where they made a boatload of money over the course of the pandemic to a market where things are contracting, but so far they're still making a ton of money. And so this is why we're seeing a lot of new car dealers actually sell out of their franchise, because right now dealer valuations are extremely high. And so if a dealer owner sells their franchise, they can make a ton of money right now. And another reason why they can make a ton of money outside of the ability for them to show really high profits and make it so their business is valued at a higher amount is the fact that there's so much investment capital being put into the dealership world that there's just a lot of money to be spent on buying these dealers. And so, the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of dealers sell out, and this trend is only going to continue, over the course of the next year and potentially into the next few years as well. I think we're going to see a lot more consolidating within the dealer world. And it's pretty interesting because this consolidation is not actually happening because of a lack of profitability. That's what you usually see in other industries is, basically the businesses have to consolidate because the prices, right, get squeezed down to a certain amount. And so the only way to remain profitable is to basically just control the entire market. And because you're selling so much product, even though you're not making a lot of money off of the product on an individual basis, you're selling a lot of it, right? So you're able to make money. In the dealership world, profitability is still really strong. And so these dealers aren't selling out because they have to, because they're not making money anymore. They're selling out at the same time that their businesses are making as much money as they've ever made, and they're just wanting to collect that big paycheck, from selling their dealer franchise. So it's just an interesting world overall. And so with all of this taken into account, moving forward, what I think we're basically going to see is again, what we've been seeing in the car market, where things are going to continue to kind of like slowly decline with price on the new car market side of things. Used car market, again, we haven't seen it quite yet, but I think it definitely is coming because those wholesale values are declining. And just understand that because dealers are in such a strong capital position, they're not going to have to do anything crazy anytime soon. And so, people thinking that there's going to be liquidation sales and all that kind of stuff. Again, despite what some of my thumbnails look like and some of the videos you'll see on YouTube, the car business is doing quite well overall. And so just understand that we're in a market where it looks like things are, at least in the short term, very stable. Now, will that continue into the next 6 months, year, 2 years? My guess is as good as yours. But, although right now is not as good of a time to be in the car business as what it was a year or two ago, it's still actually really good. Anyways, that's going to sum things up for today's video. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. I'll see you.